My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one can snatch them out of my hand. Okay, check this out. Here's the question. This will never perish is, I believe, if you've been listening to A.K. Richardson and with Corey Minor, which I'll play a clip from in a second. Notice this. This is the double negation he's talking about. In English, not, if you say not, it's a positive. They undo each other. Like, I will not do the thing, which would mean you're going to do it. In Greek, this double negation is may, never, not. And that's, of course, a good English translation. It's an emphasis, a double emphasis of it won't happen. This word apolontize, let's see what the original word is here. It's apolomy, which means to destroy utterly. A kind of death that is viewed as certain. Says here, apolomy, away from, to destroy, fully destroy, cutting off entirely. Apolomai, violently, completely perish, is its use in Homer, dating back some until 900 BC in the Greek. It's in Matthew 5, for you that should perish, one of them. It is salvific in usage. Wineskins, things that are destroyed. To the lost sheep, apparently, is the same word, the lost of the house of Israel. So, but notice in the Greek, double negation there on the top right, ume, never perish, shall they perish to the, notice how this is totally missing in the English translation, to the age. That's the word aeon, which is often translated as forever. Aeonian, aeonia, aeon, eon, to the age to come, or forever. It's not even, often this double negation when regarding salvation and life, which you wouldn't notice in the English. How would they have translated it differently? Remember, it just says will never perish, right? But in the Greek, it's like a double emphasis of something never happening and the word death with the word aeon in it. Eistone, Iona. Like life eternal up here. They put eternal for aeonion. I mean, it's a different form, obviously, and it's different grammar. So notice this. I just wanted to point something out. So it's a double negation, but the big question is, what's Jesus really saying here? And let me play what AK says here, because he's exactly right. Let's just do this. I'm just going to play a quick clip and explain why he's absolutely correct here. And by the way, I agree with him.
If he goes to context and argues something about the sheep, he's now leaving the Greek argument. But when he says, this is my Greek argument, this is my Greek exegesis, he's resting his case on this, an inference that he's making from the Greek rule. Now, I gave him examples, 2 from the Bible and 1 outside of the Bible. If Hobby Lobby were to say my sheep, if Hobby Lobby were to say our employees will never work Sundays, that's category specific. It says that never working Sundays, but it says it about their employees. But it doesn't tell you whether their employees will always be their employees. If their employees quit in the future and go work somewhere else and work Sunday, it doesn't invalidate that promise or policy that Hobby Lobby said. It's just that it doesn't apply to them anymore because they're no longer employees.
See, people have a problem with understanding how interpretation is different from exegesis. Exegesis comes first, and then the discussion needs to be theological interpretation based on what the text demands from, say, like the grammar or the usage and the possibilities, and being open and honest with that. So in other words, as he's going to go on to say, his problem with Corey, and I would say I have the same issue, and it does seem like Corey was evading this fact, that he has been saying, and I watched other people who are of Corey's persuasion, hearing his things he was claiming and going around to us little people on YouTube and saying things like the double negation. I heard it in all the OSAS circles on the lower levels of Christian, Middle Earth. Okay. They were grabbing what Corey was saying and claiming the Greek grammar rule demands, and some were going so far as to be absolutely outrageous and ideological demons when they were saying that proves that like our soteriology is right, and anybody who doesn't believe it isn't regenerate, even so far as to say something silly and stupid like that. And yes, Corey was saying that this, and he tried to use it against Dr. Brown, and he was being evasive in his discussion. And I like Corey Munner for a lot of reasons, and I try not to have any sort of dislike of people, even though I disagree with them on certain things. I really have nothing against Corey Munner. And if we're honest, we all find ourselves in these circumstances at different times where, what we claimed in the past isn't quite as strong as we were saying. And then we don't want to kind of just, admit to that, especially publicly. And that's not a huge character flaw, but it is something to aspire to be honest. And I think because it does damage, like Corey's influence is far reaching, and I saw it, what people were claiming based on what he was saying. And now he's not kind of owning up to that, it seems to me, not meant to be an attack. And I think he did a good job of explaining it, although it was difficult in the discussion because it was being kind of turned into a quagmire.
But whether their employees will always be employees or not is just not spoken about by that statement. You see, that's an inference.
See, the inference is saying, look, in other words, John, let me show I think it's a great analogy. I want to make this brief, so I'm just going to show, and someone can maybe help me advance this sort of thinking better, but it's just my own layman's thinking. But I kind of look at it like this, in trying to be charitable with the way people interpret text and being honest with it. I've come up with this kind of idea, which kind of, I think, can help people see what we're saying here, what he's saying or what I'm saying. So here's the question. Does John 10 teach unconditional eternal security? And so on the level of the language itself in the Greek, you can ask these questions. 1, is unconditional eternal security being taught by this text in the grammar, if you will, or the usage of the words or whatever? I'm not a scholar, so I'm just trying to be specific without understanding the terms really well. Is it being taught? And so the answer, I would say, well, yeah, maybe. In other words, is it compatible with this text? Remember, my sheep hear my voice. They listen to my voice. I know them. They follow me. And I give them, the sheep, eternal life. And they will know not ever perish to the age to come. It would be the best translation. A double negative, like no not perish to the aeon would be a literal translation. Unto the aeon, or the age to come. No one can snatch them out of my hand. Now, is unconditional eternal security, meaning justification is necessarily permanent, is it compatible with this verse? Well, sure. Yes. This verse by itself, from the way it's written, is definitely not refuted by this text. It's perfectly compatible with it from that point of view. By itself, analyzing the use of the words. Number 3, must we believe unconditional eternal security based on this text alone, what it's saying? And the answer to that is no. So what the text intends to teach is what the author intended it to teach. But it cannot be demanded by this text. So anyone who tries to argue a grammatical demand that we believe in unconditional security or we're denying the text, that is false. But an honest person would say it's certainly compatible with this verse. This verse doesn't disprove it. And the question about it being taught is a maybe question and requires further theological interpretation from the larger body of the Bible, letting the Bible interpret itself. And if I would argue that A.K. Richardson is fully open and honest in admitting all these things, which is what a charitable, honest person would say. Standing up for the truth regarding what the text demands, what it could say or mean to teach, and what it might teach. And people who are the ideological demons try to make arguments that aren't true, like the Greek double negation demands that we believe in unconditional eternal security, which seems to be an ongoing problem among Calvinistic-leaning people who think the gospel is that you can't lose your salvation, when in reality, the context of the first century and the greater context of the circumstances, which should be the basis of our theology, is that Jesus has come to his people as a fulfillment of prophecy, and in the ways in which they understand how to relate to God has shifted to that fulfillment. And so is what the New Testament is doing is emphatically teaching through Jesus himself and the apostles that the way of the new covenant is sure. Not that your proclamation of a proposition means you can't walk away, but that receiving the Messiah and being in him is sure, and that is God's final way of salvation that will save. So that's the emphasis. What then people take that in their context today as Laodicea, and they just want to say the words and go about their business instead of what the call is.